At what point I look quite normal, like I'm looking at my
Hello. Hey Jess. Hey Clem, how you doing? Should get going in about 5 or 10 minutes, so just gonna about 5 minutes, 7 minutes to go. So welcome, grab a seat. Hey everyone, how you doing? You can say hello if you want. Give me a wave. Switch on your videos if you can. Hey Clem. And hi Jess. We're just gonna get going in 5 minutes. Hey everyone, how you all doing? Welcome along.
Hi.
Killian, how are you? Andrea, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Welcome, how are you? Yeah, it's we got a bit of a tough gig. We got a tough competition today. We got the leader Jacinda Ardern is making a sort of address to everyone at 4 o'clock today. So she's scuppered our plans. There's a few Kiwis who are going to listen into that because it affects everybody. So we will carry on regardless, and I'll be watching it on the news later on. So we'll get going in a few minutes, but just want to say hello to everybody in your own lingo. I'm not sure if I've left a few lingos out there. Killian, what's your Ditch is there for the Irish? Yeah, definitely.
JQuinn, yeah.
Ditch, or Canas a Tatu, or as we say down the south, or Kajama a Tatu up the north. Andrea, you're from which area?
I'm in Auckland.
You're in Auckland, good. So you're going to wait to watch this into later, are you?
I'm sure I'll have some people running past me telling me very quickly what's happening.
Yeah, what's going on? Yeah, it's a big announcement because it affects all of us, doesn't it? About when we can get back.
The 4 o'clock thing's on.
Yeah, there's a thing on at 4, but yeah, we're gonna keep this moving forwards anyway. Tim, hi, welcome.
Yeah, g'day Johnny, how are you?
Good, welcome. Peter, how are you? And Julia?
Very well, thank you.
Marianne, how are you? Murray,
Thanks.
hi Murray, you're out there. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good to hear. We're going to get going in a couple of minutes, just waiting for a few other people to come along. It's good to have you all here. I hope I've got everybody's, I don't think I've every hello there. There's a lot of hellos missing.
You should just have to watch it on the phone or something.
Ciao and bonjour. So yeah, indeed. So we'll just wait for a few other people to join in. Thank you for coming along. Hi Lisa, how are you? Welcome, Tony.
Good. Thank you.
Oh, how are you?
Hey Tony, how are you doing? Not too bad. Thanks for coming along.
Thank you.
Kylie, Steve, welcome. How are you?
Oh, good here, thanks.
Good.
Hi, good.
Is anybody going to be reporting? Is anyone also listening into Jacinda so you can report as we're going along? Hi, Joy. How are you? Welcome. Hi. Good to see you all.
Thank you. Hi.
Good. I'm sure a few other people are going to join us, but we'll get going on the top of the hour, so we'll give it a few more moments. Hey Shanti, how are you doing? Welcome.
Good. How are you?
Not bad. Hi Yusuf. And Jackie and Lindsay, how are you all? I can't say hello to everybody, but it's great to have you all here. Hey Lauren and Shannon. Cool. So looks like we're about on the top of the hour, so we'll get going right away. So welcome everyone, and we'll let all the people come in as they join in. Please feel free to mute yourself as we go through. Just want to say welcome to everyone. This is the first of our regular weekly sessions, presentology post COVID-19. So presentations, as we know, have changed quite a bit. And I'm going to be running a series of weekly sessions based around presenting and different sections as we go through. So these are the 6 areas that I'm going to be covering over the weeks. Yeah, we're going to be doing different things each week. So the first week I'm going to be doing is virtual presenting. I'm just going to quickly just mute everybody. 1 second. And I will. Okay, so you should be all hearing me okay. Give me a wave. You all hear me, Killian? Yeah, no problem. Yeah, good. So yeah, we're going to be covering over 6 weeks different elements of presenting. Yeah. So the virtual presenting element is really what the thing we're going to cover today. We're going to look at presenting ourselves virtually, doing what I'm doing now. So standing up in front of people and engaging people on the camera. We're going to look at some tools to do that and some best techniques to do that. Then we've got 5 other weeks. Each week we can do different things. I'm actually going to let you guys vote on what you'd like to cover each week next. We're going to look at the common mistakes that people make when they stand up to present to people. We're going to look at the storytelling and the elements of storytelling and how we can do that, how we dress up numbers, how we make numbers less boring, but looking at where we find great stories. And then the fourth week that I've had laid out was slides, which a lot of you are interested in. And I'm going to touch a little bit on that today, of course, looking at how we can improve our content and our slides when we're delivering virtually. As you know, as you all know, this is a whole new change. So how do we actually get that information across? Because right now you're looking at a massive PowerPoint slide and probably a small picture of me. And obviously we need to play with that. So we'll have a look at that and have a look at some tools and techniques to do that. Certainly data visualization is an important subject that people want to know about, and how do I take my slides from bulleted lists to icons and infographics. So we'll be looking at techniques and some of the tools within PowerPoint, Prezi, and some of the other tools, Google Slides, that allow us to do that. Maybe adding things in like timelines and some of the newer features. Like, for example, I can be speaking in English now and you could be watching me in your own language. So it depends, whatever that may be, Arabic, Hindi, it could have a different language that you could be listening to me in. Then we also need to cover public speaking, voice, body language, using our hands, connecting with people. We've got a different space to work in now with this virtual environment. And then last but not least, remembering the audience and connecting with the audience and looking at audience engagement and tools that we can use to connect with the audience. So we'll come back to this as we move through, but this is kind of my loose kind of plan for moving forward and for helping with the slides. So just a couple of housekeeping tips. Please keep yourself muted. That's that mute button. If you're not sure how to do that, it's just on your window. Just click on mute in your own window, in your own picture of yourself. In the top right, there's three little dots, and you can mute yourself. If you do have any questions, please send them through to the chat, and Jackie's there to help me with that, and she's monitoring the chat. So if you've got any questions as we go through, feel free to type them in there, or indeed raise your hand and you know, get involved if you want to. I'm going to ask you some polls just to find out who's here, and probably that's the next thing we want to do. Let's have a quick poll. So I'm just going to run a poll to get things going, and you should be seeing some polling. This is polling within you know, Zoom itself, and I've created this poll, these 3 questions just to ask you. So you might have to scroll down as you see those 3 questions to click on the ones you want to click on. So they should be coming up on your screen now. So I'm just trying to find out who's here, how you're all doing and how you're feeling, and who's here and what's your age group. Why am I asking your age group? Well, if everyone's over 50, maybe I need to make the font size larger. So are you able to see those polls coming up? And just click on the screen and give me some feedback as we go through. So you just click on the screen. Are you able to do that? Killian, yeah, good. So I'm just waiting for those polls coming through. So this is the polling app within Zoom itself. You can create a poll and you can ask people questions as it goes along. So we're just waiting for some of those votes to come in. Killian, give us a wave. You able to see those and click on them? Yeah, good. Yeah, cool. So I'm still waiting for it at my end. So there's a challenge right away, just seeing if we can get some polling going. Cool. You might see it again there. Did you see any results? Or so we'll just see if we can get any responses there from you. Doesn't look like Zoom's playing with us today for some reason. So I'm not getting any indication at this end that you're polling. So we'll come back to that. We'll have a look at that. Huh? Yeah, I didn't get any results here. So that's the results I got. So we'll come back to that, but that's a good example of maybe sort of technology and using technology and some of the challenges that we may have. So we'll come back to those as we go forward. So really looking at presenting, if you think about it, this is the norm of that we've left behind, yeah, that we all remember. So you had a group of people sitting around a table, a deal being done, not much social distancing or physical distancing, but certainly, you know, touch being an issue. So we've entered a new world of presenting, haven't we? We've kind of entered a world where we're now presenting from our spare rooms or from our kitchen. So that can be a challenge for people. So how do we create a connection, and how do we connect with people as we go through it? So, you know, really, if you look at it, what we're trying to achieve when we present to people is we're trying to create some sort of connection, a connection of some sort. And that's obviously done easily in a live presentation with presence and awe and wow, or all those types of emotive things that go on around us. And we lose all that in this type of environment. So it's a case of how can we connect better, and how can we make those connections with people and use the technology that's around us. Now, if you look at some numbers, and you should be seeing some numbers there from different content and different numbers around the presentation industry. There are about 350 presentations going on every second somewhere in the world, and arguably a lot more Zooms happening at this time right away. So 30 million presentations on average, that's a Microsoft number, go on every day somewhere in the world. And, you know, 99% of them could do with some help. And we're going to look at some great skills and some ways to do that as we go through this session. 3% of organizations you see there really don't have a strategy to it. And that's a shocker to me, because the people I work with, I essentially try to help them define a strategy. How are we going to, you know, present ourselves? How are we going to put ourselves forward? And that really involves defining the audience, working on the content, how it looks, the slides, generally putting that information together, but also linking to audience engagement. How do we engage the audience more? And how do we, you know, really deliver ourselves in the best way possible? So voice, body language, all that type of stuff, dress, and now lighting, Zoom, virtual backgrounds, all that kind of stuff. We'll look at some of that as we go through. If you do it better, then, you know, you're going to see better sales. You're going to increase. And certainly, as I feel we come out of COVID-19, we're going to see a huge growth in people meeting and connecting with each other. And really, I would like today to give you those skills, some of the skills that I've seen and some of the ways that we're using it. By creating more engagement with the audience, on the right-hand side, those numbers refer to that really creating more engagement forces people to remember you. And that's essentially what we're trying to do. We're trying to be memorable and change and disrupt the norm. Now, you've heard of disruptive change before. What is disruptive change? Well, it's doing something different, yeah? And unfortunately, this is the norm that we see people present, yeah? So what do you see here? Do you see a PowerPoint slide, yeah? Is it a PowerPoint slide? Yes, it is. Why do you instantly recognize it as a PowerPoint slide? Well, on the right-hand side, you see a rounded edged picture. Looks pretty crap, stocky sort of picture. My logo is in the bottom right-hand corner. So that immediately says PowerPoint to me. My picture has kind of got a reflection, which is a standard default reflection. You can see that we've got bullet points on the left-hand side, which is a list of things that I'm going to go through. Now, if I was to start off and say, here's today's agenda, and today we're going to learn how to make better presentations, arguably you guys would all switch off immediately, because you would realize that I'm going to read down through each of these individually, and that is the norm that we see people doing. So really, the idea is to not do that, is to do something else. And we've seen lots of different examples of it over the years. And here's the problem, is that very often people won't tell you you're not good at this. You may be having challenges, etc., but very often we don't feed back to each other. And only can you do that by having a go and getting feedback from an audience. This is another thing that you should really try to remember. No one is going to admit to having ugly children, and your PowerPoint slides are not your children, yeah? But you do put effort into them, and you build those slides and you put your mark on them, so you feel that they are kind of your offspring, and they're the things that are going, and you feel an element of love with them. And that's really a matter of not focusing in on that, the matter of relearning how to make them look as good as possible. So I want to show you some examples of good and bad, and befores and afters. But really, everywhere at meetings and conferences, have you heard of death by PowerPoint before? You may have heard of it, but you know, people are bored out of their minds at meetings. It's a common worldwide problem. And we see different impacts on different people wherever we go. This is probably one of my favorite pictures of, it's not a very great picture, but it kind of sums up what I see a lot of people suffering from, really. It's total and absolute boredom. This gentleman, I took a picture of this guy at the back of an event one day, and he was pretty much fast asleep at the back of an event. There are 300 people in front of him at the conference, but he came down the back of the room and had a little sleep at the back of the room. This lady, I don't know if you can recognize this lady at the back of the room here. She's what she's up to. She's come all the way to a conference, and she's brought her own entertainment. She's doing a bit of knitting in there. So really, it's a case of, you know, her expectation is that the content is going to be terrible. And these are some of the content that we've seen over the years. Ask yourself what is good about this slide, or what is bad about it. And pretty much everything, every rule is being broken here. We're seeing poor use of content, poor use of graphics, poor use of fonts, poor use of colors. So really, we've got to move forward from something like this, and we've got to try and improve it. And you might say to me, "Oh, Johnny, come on, that's very extreme. That's not true." But then you could look at something like this, which is, you know, an IT slide with a lot of IT content in it. And when people, and the CEO took me to one side and said, "What can you do with this? What do you think? How can you improve this? What do you think people get from it?" And I said, "Do you want me to be honest?" I said, honestly, people get Smarties and M&Ms from this. I mean, it's just too much information. And that's a common problem, is that we can't helicopter or step back from what we're looking at, and we over data dump, and we put too much data onto the slide. So that skill of knowing the difference between knowledge and wisdom, because you're actually paid to present wisdom, not to present the knowledge. Because if knowledge is knowing that tomatoes are fruit, wisdom is knowing not to put it in a fruit salad. So really, your job, as in whatever role you're taking and as you present to people, is to try and distill down the core elements and present just that. Because really, in this environment, we don't have the time. We don't have time to take all of the data. So a few before and afters. This is before, a pretty typical sort of slide again with the bullet points on it, but it's obviously referring to, you know, locations around the world. So this is our version of it. So a little using a graph and highlighting those different areas, and using graphical elements to get the message across. So world graph with call outs for each one of them is a typical thing we would do with something like that. Again, a big number. We all love big numbers, so a great number and highlighting it, but let's bring some icons and infographics into it, and then animate and move that. And typically the animations don't work very well. If I animate that again, you'll see that there's a bit of, for those of you on higher bandwidth, you'll see that there's a bit of introduction animation, but typically in Zoom, we're just seeing static and no animation. So watch out for that. Don't try to over animate your slides, because in Zoom, it really doesn't work very well, but you should be seeing the end result. So a big number, a big icon, a big infographic, and finding something like that. Now, where do you find something like that? How do you build something like that? That's all doable within PowerPoint. And we're gonna, when we come on to looking in depth into the PowerPoint elements, we'll see that these types of icons exist within PowerPoint, and you can bring them in and add them into your slide and make something more engaging. Tables and graphs is a common issue, just a sort of final sort of example. So this is a great example of good data and trying to simplify it. You could have put much more, but here's just our version of that. So what have we done? Well, again, an icon or some sort of imagery with the big number, and then some breaking up that chart or that table to make it more interesting, and bringing the font size way up, bringing things larger, much larger, because bear in mind that people may not be looking at a full screen as you are now. They may be looking at a window. So I'm going to look at different ways to do that. So those are some of the things. Just one final example for the charts and graphs people. Here's a table, some great information again, but again, very PowerPoint-y. It just screams PowerPoint to you, doesn't it? The colors are PowerPoint, the whole layout is PowerPoint. Now, they wanted this data, and they wanted the data to be accessible. So the client did not want us to edit. They had to have a PowerPoint chart in there. So what we did is we basically recolored it and took away a lot of the tick lines, and then added an image with a banner on it. So, you know, in terms of just making it more engaging, but still keeping the ability for it to be linked to an Excel chart in the background, so the numbers could be dynamically updated, that's important in terms of getting the message across. So a few examples for you there. Any chats on, any comments on any of that, or yeah? So we're by the way, yes, couple of people are asking me, will they get these slides? We will of course share all of this content with you. Everything I'm going through today is going to be shared with you towards the end. So we'll make sure that that's done. And I'm sorry about the polling. We can try and get that going again later on. But maybe it was taking a bit long to get through to you. So cool. So we'll keep going ahead, and I'm going to look at a few other examples. So really, the on-screen text and reading slides is a typical approach that most people take. And at Audience Alive, what we've tried to do is recreate that formula. So we are very much focused on working on creating good content and working on your delivery, how you actually present it, how you connect with people. Do you look at the camera? Do you really connect? Do you move around a little bit? Do you step back and then move forward a little bit? So I'm only moving about a half a meter here. So it's just a case of maybe looking at the environment you have. You notice as well that I'm standing up because I'm using my hands. I couldn't be doing what I'm doing now sitting down, and we'll talk about that. But also increasing the interactivity. For years and years, we ran events with polling with these little clicker-based systems, and we've applied a lot of that logic now over to the online environment. So we're going to look at a few examples of that. But today, what I really wanted to focus in on was the virtual element of what we're doing. And I've got a whole series of slides here and a whole series of information for you about how you actually get yourself set up to present. Now, on the left-hand side of this slide, you see the picture of where I am standing. And I want to let you know that I've been in lockdown, so I had to create all of this from what I had around me. So right behind me, as you notice there, you can see I've got my son's duvet, which happened to be a green color. We'll come back to it in a moment, but there's some fishing rods there, and it's really a sort of throw together, you know, build it and it will work, yeah, type setup. And I'll explain a little bit about the virtual background when we come on to demonstrate that. But first and foremost, data. Let's talk about communicating and communication over the internet. Now, some of you may be connected by Wi-Fi, some of you may be on your phones, yeah? But essentially the best way that you can be connected is via a cable, yeah, rather than Wi-Fi. We really would prefer you not to be on Wi-Fi. If you're on Wi-Fi, you've got the chances of the kids on TikTok or your Apple TV or something else stealing that data from you and lowering your signal and then ultimately losing your connection. If you can aim for a speed test of about 50 megabits up and down, you're going to be doing really well. But less than that, it becomes, not way less, but it becomes a challenge. So down below 5 megabits can become really choppy, especially if you're presenting. That's where it can become really broken up. So you're after the best cable connection you can. Now, I bought this week, down here in New Zealand, I bought myself a dongle, which is a USB dongle to Cat5, which is an Ethernet cable, and you plug that into the back of your router, and that's the other end is plugged into my computer, into my laptop. A lot of laptops today don't have an ability to plug in a wired connection to your router. So I can firmly recommend that. It was a $20 adapter to connect to my router via cable. And I ran the cable across the room and made the connection. And that rules out the Wi-Fi issues. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is sound, which is possibly the second most important thing. Because if video disappears, polling disappears, if virtual background disappears, that's all acceptable. You can get away with it. But what you can't get away with is poor sound. Now, you need really, ideally, a professional mic. Some of you guys would be maybe, guys or girls, maybe using a laptop and you're listening to me on the speakers from the laptop. But ideally, you want some sort of headset that you're plugging the sound into your ear. It will localize the sound to you, and you will also be able to use a microphone. Now, sitting on my desk there, and here I'm showing you, is a Yeti Blue microphone. It's a $40 secondhand microphone. I just want to be honest with you. I'm not spending a fortune on this stuff. Again, it's a USB microphone. It plugs into the USB port, but it's a big microphone that really connects and gets all of the resonance from my voice. And that's really important that people can hear you. So, you know, and you can also set it up in different ways, and I'm listening via that. So really, also consider background noise. If you've got noisy neighbors or if you've got stuff going on next door, or the kids or dogs or animals, please try and minimize all of that when you're presenting to try and make it as sort of inclusive as possible. Now, lighting is important, and I've seen people do as simple as climb up with a piece of A4 paper and put it around the lighting that was in the room and direct the light towards them. Yeah, but ideally you want to have natural light hitting your face if you have no lighting. What I have there up in front of me is a $100 photographic light. Yeah, big kind of soft light, and that becomes really important when we start talking about this green screen behind me, because the green screen or blue screen or white screen, but ideally green, will only work with good lighting. You can't use it well if it's and you can't put something on it, as I have here. You can't put something on it without good lighting. So it's important to have some sort of good light. Now, you might find that out in your garage you have a work light that would work fine. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a professional setup, but you ideally want to set that up. The next thing that's important that I want to highlight is the camera. Now, more often than not, you will see people presenting with a laptop, and the laptop is down in front of them and they're looking downwards, and the laptop is looking up their nose. Yeah, and that is one of the main challenges that we see. So the camera in your computer or whichever camera you're using needs to be at eye level with you, ideally at eye level. Now, the cameras also, we recommend a Logitech C930 camera, which is again a $100 camera. That is a 1080p camera. And again, I'll give you all this information. I've actually built a web page where you can get all of the links to all of these different products as we go through, because I'm really keen to advise people on getting a 1080p. What does 1080p mean? It just means high definition. So it's a high definition. So you should be seeing me in as clear a light as possible. So the light should be good. You should also be seeing me as sharp as possible. And that then also helps with the background. But the most important thing, if nothing else, is to lift the camera up to be an eye level. That could be a shoebox or a box that you lift it up. I'm lucky enough that I've got an electric desk here which lifts up and down, so I was able to motor the desk up and stand up and then sit down again. Again, something I recommend. But whatever way you do it, get the camera on eye level. You'll start noticing people, this even on television, even some senior people fall foul of this, is that the camera is not on eye level. Now, we'll come back to using the camera and really connecting with it in a moment or two, but that's more in the delivery side of things. Connecting with it is incredibly important, because it's very distracting for me to sit here talking to Killian. I'm now talking to Killian and Andrea. How are you doing, Andrea? And now I'm having an individual conversation. Or, hi, Tim. How are you doing? So I'm having individual conversations with people instead of talking to everybody. If you're going to talk to everyone, I need to see you guys through the lens of the camera. And that's a really important consideration. So the background now, coming on to the background, and let's get out of this PowerPoint slide in a moment. I want to show you some real examples of what you can do with it. This background that I've got is just a natural background. Yeah, it's a green colored background. But if you didn't have a background, then as I've advised some other people, there are two elements you'll notice people using: either books in the background if you're an academic, and plants in the background, which give you the kind of nature loving look. So if you are setting up a scene without a green screen, then please use something like that in the background, or some element of branding in the background. Here I have a green screen, and I want to show you some of the things that you can do with it. So I'm going to basically show you the virtual background abilities within Zoom. Okay, we're using Zoom, and also it's in some of the other products, some of the other solutions. You can also use virtual backgrounds, but certainly Zoom seemed to have been the front runner in terms of doing this and getting people. But remember, use a green screen. You can do a virtual background without a green screen, but it's very soft around the face, and it doesn't react well when you move around, and it can cut you out quite often. So the solution to that is to have a green screen. One of the things we're going to look at is the ability to put your PowerPoint behind you as a video or as pictures. And that's quite a clever way to present. It will definitely make you look different if you're standing in front of your content. A bit like a weatherman or a weather lady. So think about how people typically would use. You need to have space to be able to move around and to get away. And we'll have a real life example in a moment. But you can also play videos on there as well. So shall we, we'll have a quick demo, and let's have a look at how we'll do that. I'm just going to escape and stop sharing from this slide, and I can see you all now. I'm seeing you all as a as a big mosaic, but I'm going to just spotlight my own video. So are you seeing me at the top? You should be seeing me nice, and as I'm the biggest at the top. Give me a wave if that's true. Yeah, good. Thank you. So what I'm going to have a little play with now is I'm now going to change the background. So what I've currently got on this background is my name, and I've also got a QR code. Has anyone played with QR codes? Yeah, you've ever played with them? But anybody know how to use them? You essentially grab your mobile phone, if you have an Apple phone, and you switch on the camera, if it's an Apple phone, and you hover over that QR code and it will send you off to that link. So that's a way of getting people to connect to different links. So you can actually try and connect to other people. How do you make a QR code? A free QR code generator, and you type in your URL, it makes a picture, and you save that picture and put it onto your background. So this particular background I have behind me was made in PowerPoint. Yeah, just a PowerPoint slide and then saved as a picture. So a lot of you save PowerPoint as a PowerPoint, but you can save PowerPoint as a picture, as a JPEG, or you can save it. You can also save it as a video. So let me have a go at changing a few things, and change a few things around. You'll get the idea. So here is my Toastmasters background. When I'm working at Toastmasters, so it's got the logo on there and it's got the branding. Notice that I ideally don't want to wear the same color as a green screen. Here is no background. There's the fabric you can see, and it's simply hanging behind me. For people in New Zealand, you can get this in Spotlight. Certainly in Sharaf DG in the Middle East, you can get it as well. So you can order these green screens online, and you can organize a kit to get behind you. So I could show you where I am, where I'm based. Again, a branded slide with a QR code on it. Maybe something a bit of fun. If somebody brings up a message or two, you could kind of, you can interact with it a little bit. You can start using it. I recommend some sort of halo, which is around you, which is a good way to present, and having your name on there as well, and who you are and where you come from. But then we can also maybe start looking at using some video. So maybe you could start bringing in a video. So this is all done in Zoom under Choose Virtual Background. You can add an image, or you can add a video, and it will then, once you click on it, it will play that video. So were I to introduce you to Aaron, my son, then this would be an appropriate video to show him of. So what he's up to, and the sort of thing that we used to do when we were down at the pool. So just a way of connecting with people and presenting, fun stuff is, and a lot of people see it like that. My advice to you is do not use the standard backgrounds in Zoom. You want to try to use something that's customized to you. So how do you make something like this, for example? So now we have some examples of some healthcare presentations that we've created, and this is a video playing of the content that we've created. And I've moved over to one side, and now I can now start talking about the content. Now, if you were to present this as a video within PowerPoint and share a screen, the video would not play very well. It would rely heavily on bandwidth, and it would become an issue. But for various reasons, Zoom allows you to put a video in the background and it to play like this. So judge for yourself which is better, me standing, in front and becoming a small window, or is it more personable that I'm actually connecting with you and talking about the different solutions and using the virtual background. So you now see the mix of having high quality lighting, good quality camera, and a green screen, and you can end up with something like this. So the idea, my advice to you is to play with this, to have a play. But if you're presenting, for example, I know there's lots of people in tourism looking for different ways to present themselves, then this is a great way to present a video of, whatever it may be, whatever you do. Like here's a video of our hometown here in Queenstown and the sort of stuff that people get up to. So this is a great way to talk over it, and to introduce it to the clients. Are we agreed? Do we like it? Give me a wave if you like it. Yeah, it's good. Thanks. So it's So I mean, it's just a way of and it's really simple to do. Just get the video and add it in to the virtual background. I'll be giving you the link with an in-depth, step-by-step instruction how to go about doing that. But really, it's a matter of in the Zoom area, it's virtual backgrounds. Also in the Microsoft solution in Teams, you can also add a virtual background in as well. So I've got different videos ready to go. This is another set of videos around the ports presentations that we've created over the years. So these are all slide examples of animations and movements. None of these would be possible in the PowerPoint element when I would just play it, when I would share screen. Where I sharing screen, you wouldn't get all these smooth animations, etc. So we use this extensively when we're demonstrating a content. Here's a negative, and I know it's a question that somebody's going to ask me. The thing moves forward automatically. It's a video. I can't pause it. I can't go slide by slide. It's playing a video. Yeah. Now I can save my PowerPoint as a video with timings between it, but you're going to need to be pretty good at that. You're going to need to, you can't actually. So what I've asked Zoom is, look, can we either have PowerPoint in this format in the background, or can we pause the video? Can we get some control over this video? We currently don't have that, but that would be ideal if we had some sort of control. So at the moment, you go into PowerPoint and you save your PowerPoint as a video and bring it in here. And that's one way of doing it. But I'm about to show you another way as well of doing that as we step down through it. But yeah, those are just a few examples of virtual backgrounds within Zoom, which we really recommend and like using. So let me go back to my original one, which is just my static slide. Incidentally, you could save your PowerPoint slides as pictures, JPEGs. You can save PowerPoint. PowerPoint will save out your whole PowerPoint presentation as individual pictures, and you could bring those in individually, and then you could click through them. That is if you wanted to present in front of them, but it would certainly make you look different if you were up in front of people. So cool. There's a few questions. I'm just going to check the chat as we go through. Can PowerPoint be used collaboratively? Yes, it can. We can talk a little bit about that as we go forward. You can have multiple people on it, but there's a new tool, a new feature of PowerPoint, which is live presentations from PowerPoint, which is designed to be actually, collaborative as we go through. So we'll make sure you get the slides for sure. Absolutely, Tony. We'll make sure that happens. Great. Next, I'd like to go back to sharing a screen. So just let me share a screen as we go back, and we'll have a look at what we're going to look at next. So you should be seeing my screen again. So that was just a summary of virtual backgrounds and how we use that. The next thing I'd like to introduce you to, I don't know if anyone's played with this yet, and it does require me to stop my camera and do a few things, but I think you should see it. It's definitely next level presenting. It's you and your slides together on the screen. So what I've had up to now is the slides have been playing behind me. Yeah, okay. And I'm kind of getting in the way. Yeah. So, and you do find yourself kind of moving around to get out of the way. But Prezi Video, last year in November, Prezi quietly announced Prezi Video, which is a tool that allows you to do that. And it links to Zoom. So you do need to get another piece of software called Prezi Video, and there's a link to download it. And it brings the slides in. And you can also control the way your slides animate. So if you can bear with me a moment, what I'm going to do now is going to stop sharing again, and I'm going to switch off my camera, and I'm going to change over to Prezi Video. So just bear with me one moment while I do that. Chat amongst yourselves. So I've started Prezi Video in the back end, which is just on my desktop, and I'm opening up a presentation, which I've imported. I've brought my presentation into Prezi Video, and I'm now going to start presenting that via Zoom. So I'm sending it over to Zoom. And in Zoom, well, how it sets itself up is it sets itself up as a camera. Yeah, so I've got a new camera in Zoom. And you should see me now starting to come in. So if I choose my Prezi Video camera, I'm now using Prezi Video. And what the picture you're now seeing looks like just me. I am going to play a little bit with my background because my background is going to get a little bit busy. So I'm going to change over to a more generic background. So here's just not a picture in the background, just a static background. And then when I go to Prezi Video, I've got several options. The slides now start to appear beside me, like that. Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. Now it looks pretty small. You can't read it, can you? And that's one of the challenges. I can move the slides forward and backwards, and I can control the slides, and the slides are appearing beside me. I've also can use numbers 1, 2, and 3 on my keyboard to change between just me, no slides, myself and the slide together, and then also I can full screen the actual video, the slide itself. So now you should be able to read it. Yeah. So this is called Prezi Video. It's $20 a month at most to buy it. But I think that's really just for recording. There's a free trial that you can go and get it, and it allows you to move forward through your slides. These are the next slides we're going to be going through, and you can move back and forwards through them. These motions I'm doing is one of the most basic motions. You can also, there's a whole range of different backgrounds and different elements that you can bring together. But if you want to look and appear different, then I would suggest that this is one way of doing it, just getting your messages across and helping you get your message across. So yeah, pretty straightforward. Prezi video. Once you've loaded it, it sets itself up as another camera, and away you go. So next I'd like to come on and look a little bit at the whole element, and let's by all means use Prezi video as we go forward. I'd like to come on and talk a little bit about the body language in terms of your clothing. So it's just worth highlighting that, you know, the clothing you wear, it's important that it's kind of, you know, simple and straightforward. I've got quite a busy shirt on today, but it's important that you don't wear the same green color as a background. Otherwise you're going to do that disappearing act where, you know, you disappear altogether as it cuts you out. So just try and keep your clothing as, you know, solid colors, and obviously no greens, but try to be your brand and watch out for, you know, the different, you know, motifs and, you know, that sort of thing on your clothing, because it can be distracting for the audience. So we want to try and keep our look and feel as simple as possible in terms of getting a message across. And if you're, you know, if your brand is blues and yellows, then make sure maybe you're wearing it, you know what I mean? And in terms of getting a message out there. Next up, hands, yeah, hand motions, yeah. So I just want to take you through some of the typical hand motions. We've lost a huge amount of area, haven't we? Because normally when we stand up, we've got our whole body language that we can work with, yeah. But in this environment, I'm now on half my slide, and I've really only got my hands up here. So we don't want any of this worrying or, you know, kind of scratching the face or the hands above the mouth in any way. We want to try and, you know, if somebody were to ask me a question now, as we're coming up to questions in a moment, then, you know, yeah, I would maybe scratch my chin and have a think about it. You know what I mean? That's the professor. So there are different ways. We want to try and give information as much as possible. And, you know, we want to try and use the space, and we'll come on to this more so when we talk about body language in more in depth, but we want to try and use the available space we have, because I've just come back a little bit, and now I've suddenly, you know, I've got more room to move around. So using the available space that you have is really important in terms of giving you information across. So try to use those skills in terms of getting across, and watch out for any of those. We'll go through those in more detail when we go into body language and on that week when we do specifically body language, but there are some specific ones you want to watch out for. What about the eyes? Yeah, now that's probably the biggest challenge for people, is the eyes are the windows to the soul. Yeah, we need to connect with the audience, and it's a constant battle to come back to the camera and to look at the camera. Ask yourself, how do you feel? I'm talking to you right now, and where I see a lot of people looking away, and looking away is one of the hardest ways to get your message across. How do you feel now that I'm now looking at you? I'm looking at all of you. It's a real challenge. And so the simplest solution I have for you there is you have the ability to restore the whole zoom window down. You window the zoom window and you put it under your camera. So don't try and look at everyone that's in your meeting. Just put the zoom window underneath your camera, and then you'll be looking at the person, but to them it will look like you're looking directly at them. So I can't stress how importance of good eye contact and connecting with your audience. And it's not something I'm perfect at. We're all working at it, and it's challenging in this environment because you're used to looking at faces, and now the faces are the people through that lens. So it's really important that you do that. By the way, Google build your own teleprompter. There's a couple of guys who built their own teleprompter for, believe it or not, $5. So they used a sort of an old flip chart from Costco and a kind of a black, and they cut a piece of it out and they put it round their camera, and they put an iPad below it, or a screen that they had below it. And there's an app that allows you to kind of create a teleprompter. So if teleprompting is forgetting what you're going to say is a problem, then if you're using a webcam, then certainly you can build a teleprompter. But also Google teleprompter app on your iPhone or your Android phone. There is actually a video recording app that brings the script that you want to say up in front of you. So that means you can read it. So I found that really useful. A couple of times I had to create videos. That's really for creating videos, not for Zoom meetings. So that's the eyes, and really important. And we're really just giving you a taster of the sort of stuff we're going to talk about in more depth in the hour that we have to do that when we get onto it. So really the other thing is the mouth. Obviously, we want to sort of smile, we want to have fun, and if you've got bad teeth, get them fixed. We want to see your teeth. Yeah, we want to see a smile from people. We want engagement. So, and we want to try and have a bit of fun. So watch out for kind of pursed lips or getting too much information across. So in summary, as we come up to 45 minutes and a few questions, you need to get yourself set up. You need to get set up as best way you can, and really sort of look at how your setup is. And I'm hoping that if you're all going to, a few of you might come back next week. And if you come back, then we start seeing some difference and some people trying and playing with some of this stuff. Try to be as charismatic as possible. We see a lot of static body language and movements and people doing things on Zoom. They seem to think it's okay to just sit there and do nothing, but get involved, and try and have a bit of fun, try and smile and have a bit of fun with getting your messages across. It's really not that hard. So don't be afraid to disrupt the norm. Don't be afraid to change and disrupt things, and try and change this formula. As I mentioned, try to go away from the static and reading slides and just referring to your notes and reading. Work with your slides. Try and look at how you can create interactivity as well in terms of connecting with people. So really, I've got these 6 weeks, which I'd like to sort of work through it with you. I've kind of given you an overview of kind of the virtual presenting element, and we've focused a little bit more on that today. But next week I was going to look at the common mistakes that people make and what the problems are, and then we're going to come on to working out your story. How do you define what your own story is? How I've got some tools and techniques for you to do that. And then we're going to look at the slides. We're going to look at how we build great looking slides and how we kind of really make slides look impactful before we come on to delivering them, how we can learn how to deliver them, and then some tools for audience engagement. You saw today, for example, our audience engagement didn't work too well, the polling, and that can be a challenge. Sometimes it can slow down, etc., in terms of how you get it across. So are there other ways to do that? Well, there are, for example. So we can work with you on how your presentation actually works. So I offer all of you the opportunity to connect with me, send through a presentation, and I can put that together for you in terms of it. This is where you can get all the content from today. So it's just at this little website, and I would like you to go in there when you're finished here. There is a flashing cursor, which is give us some feedback. You can ask us questions in there, but the top button in that little website has got all of the a link to our website with all of the content. I've written a long blog post with links to the C930 camera and to Prezi Video. So everything is in there that you need to know moving forward, but also you've got the ability to give us some feedback, and that's my backup in terms of not using Zoom. So, and we also build these apps for people to be able to connect with them. So any questions? And I do see quite a few questions. So I think I touched on the collaborative use of PowerPoint. I'm just looking at the chat. If you've got any questions, then feel free to type any questions you have in there. Yeah, so Zamir has told us that one way to make your videos to have all your slides converted into individual videos and then play them one by one. That's a good idea, Zamir. So you would literally save each slide, save as PowerPoint. Do you want me to, does anybody want me to show you that? Would that help if I showed you where that is in PowerPoint? So I get a few nods there. I need to exit the video conference. You're gonna see just Prezi Video for a minute, and I'll change over my camera to my other webcam, and then I'm just going to share my screen and go into PowerPoint. So this is my PowerPoint slides under, and you should be seeing my whole desktop there. So File, Save As is one way, but notice that over here on the left-hand side, you've also got Export. Yeah, you can export from PowerPoint, and I'm using Office 365, and we have different options in here. PDFs, obviously. You see here we can create a video. So PowerPoint allows you to create a video from your PowerPoint slides. So you've got different options. You don't really need 4K unless you are doing something amazing. You don't need full, really 720 is generally fine. So these are just the different sizes of the file. A 4K file will be massive and will take a long time, and a 480p one is about half the resolution of a typical desktop. So 720 we recommend, and then you can decide whether you want the timings, and you can create a video, and it will then go and render out your PowerPoint. Now, if you had a PowerPoint with just individual slides in it, then you could save those all out individually as individual videos and bring them into Zoom. And that would be one way to do it. Just while we're here, you can also create an animated GIF now in PowerPoint, which is really cool for social media. So if you're trying to create a little social media post with animations and movements in it, you know, Facebook and LinkedIn deal with an animated GIF slightly different to a MP4, to a video file. So you can use that feature if you like as well. So that's the exporting side of exporting things from PowerPoint. Any other questions? There's a few other questions I saw there. I'll just go back to chat. Thanks. Steve, really you find MS team friendly? I think you mean the Microsoft team. No, we've been for 20 years helping Microsoft and helping people push Microsoft products, and they're oh, sorry, the Microsoft team friendly. I might be not understanding your question, but generally Microsoft are very good at coming up with solutions, but don't really communicate them that well. So we're part of kind of pushing it out. So I can see that some of you, Aideen, you're mentioning that you're using MS Teams as well as Zoom. The MS Teams functionality, the background, there are virtual backgrounds now available. I'm pretty sure there aren't video, but you can have a picture in the background. And well, the other thing we like about Teams is you can blur your background. So that solves the issue of the partner wandering through looking for breakfast or whatever that you might have seen happening before, where somebody's getting involved. So yeah, you can blur out the background. So Steve Simons, you're asked, I do technical training, how to display product example physical. I get what you mean. So displaying products, you could actually play product videos, and you could also show, you know, the actual video. You can actually show the PowerPoints in the background, is another way to do that. And did you saw somebody, Tony, thank you for the update. You saw a bit of a lag on the video and audio. It's not a common problem. It depends what's going on. So yeah, and I think Zamir's gone directly to Steve there to give you, Steve, some answers. He's suggesting some multiple cameras. Okay, so I mean live. Okay, so you're thinking of using live. I get it. So yeah, we have seen people where you know, you've got 4 USB ports or a hub. You could have 4 USB cameras, one pointing down at the table for something to write on. You could have, you know, different product shots. So you can actually have multiple cameras connected if you're demoing a product. That's quite a good idea to switch over to it. And you can do that live in Zoom. You can choose from the different cameras. You can have quite a few. I think another question, Lindsay, I think you missed my question. How do we know that we're looking directly into the camera? Yeah, where is your camera? Well, I've given you a link to Zoom test. You can open up a Zoom and create your own Zoom and don't connect with anybody, and then look at where your camera is. A lot of people aren't aware where their camera is, but you want to try and identify it by switching it on, or just open the camera app in your computer, and you can see where the camera is, and you'll see it's a little hidden black dot. Someday somebody is going to invent a screen with a camera behind it. It hasn't happened so far. It's obviously not easy to look through a screen and have a camera, but it makes a lot of sense, because right now we want to look at the actual camera. So you can work out where your camera is and then focus in on it. It's a real mental juggle to stop looking at everything else that goes on a screen. And some people I know even turn it off completely and don't look at everyone. But my best solution, as I mentioned to you, is to pick up that window of people and put the people underneath your camera. You will then get a much better sort of, you know, kind of connection with the whole audience. Cool. Any other questions there? Can you control the size? Talking head could use this. Steve, I'm not sure what that means. Can you control a talking head? few eye-opener questions. Thank you. A few comments. Any other questions there? Any other comments or questions? We've got a few more minutes to focus in on any of those elements. Feel free. Yeah, a lot of, look here, here's a challenge, right? A lot of people are running webinars, right? And I am not a webinar fan. And the differentiation between a meeting and a webinar is video and audio. So, you know, although you're all kind of, you know, possibly, you know, not using, I mean, if I just unmute everybody now, then why couldn't you just ask a verbal question? Why do we have to have these meetings where everybody is only allowed to listen? At least 50% of us haven't turned on our cameras. But what I'm seeing happening more and more is that this type of meeting is not being run as a webinar where you can't get involved. It's an open mic. The whole idea is that you can literally, you know, kind of unmute everybody and let everybody listen to everybody and connect with everyone. So why wouldn't we do that? There's no reason why, you know, I find certainly if you've got 1,000 people, it's going to become a challenge.
I'll talk to you in a moment.
So yeah, and then you've got people, you know, who maybe have got background noise, and that's what happens when we unmute things. But I was at a Toastmasters general meeting this week, and there were 180 of us, and yeah, it was managed very well, people putting their hands up, using some of the reactions. So for example, you can use, you know, applauses or thumbs up, which can put on top of it. You can also use the live polling and the polling elements to connect with people. And I would like to have a quick go with the poll again. So I'm just going to see how we're going with that. And I'm going to...
John, on iPhone, I can see the polling results button on top. So I believe on the desktop version, everyone should be able to find a button that will open the poll results.
Thank you, Zamir. So you should be seeing polling now, and you can just click on the actual screen. Yeah, you click on the screen or you click on the elements that you're interested in. So I'm giving you multiple choices there. My only challenge at this end, Zamir, is I'm not seeing any polls coming in. So people may be polling, but I'm not seeing a response. That's the first time I've seen it and not show me the results here. So have you clicked on it? Give me a wave if you have. Okay, so Zoom is letting us down because it's not showing me polling here. It's not showing me that you're polling. So look, there's one of the challenges of, you know, you think you've got everything covered and all of a sudden, you know, something like that doesn't work. So test. Remember that it's important. We're not Jacinda and the government are not the only people testing. We need to test. If you're going to run a successful meeting, you need to test and rehearse as much as you can. It's really important that we do that. I'm going to end the polling now, although I don't see any, and I'm going to share results. And are you seeing any results there?
Yep.
You are. Okay, so it's not working at my end. So great. So does somebody want to tell me what you'd like to cover next?
Making amazing slides.
Right. So it is slides. And so how about we do that next week? I think we'll come back next week and we'll bump that up. Thank you, Lynn. Yeah, thumbs up. We'll bring up the slides, and thanks, Tony. We'll really focus in on, you know, making slides, and we'll go nice and slowly over an hour, and we'll look at some key techniques for taking, you know, boring, simple looking slides, and then we'll do some live demos of how we actually make those look better. I wanted to touch on the virtual side this week because there really isn't any point in doing that until you've got your presentation ability up as well. So we'll come in and look at that. Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming along. And thanks, Amir. Yeah, making amazing slides. And then I can see that 53% if you wanted that. And I can see that 30% if you want to work on stories. But there's quite a bit of interest across the board on everything. It's good to see that that everybody's interested in a little bit of it. So we'll certainly try and work on that as we go through. So thank you for coming along, everyone. I really thank you for getting engaged, and we're going to, as I say, run this every week for the next 6 weeks. So if you feel like we'll do a different element of it every week, if you feel like you can just drop in and out as you want to, and we'll communicate each time what we're going to be doing the next week. And if you've got any suggestions about how we can improve it, then let us know. But it's awesome to have you all along. Have a good day out there, and thank you for coming along. See ya.
Thanks, Johnny.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
John,
Bye.
thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you,
See ya.
John.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No problem. See ya.
Thanks, John. See you.
Thank you.
See you, Dan. See you, Dan. Thanks for coming.
Thanks, John.
Thanks. Thank you, guys. Thanks, Peter. Thanks, Tony. Yeah, if you guys want to hang around, feel free. I'll have a chat afterwards. Thanks, Murray. Thanks, Sandy. How's things, Amir? Good? Cool. Just the three of us. How we doing?
Hey,
How we do? How do
well
we?
done.
How do we go? Yeah, you can unmute yourself.
Can you hear me yet? I'm unmuted. I think I'm not.
Yeah,
Can you hear me now?
I'm unmuted now. Yeah, and Amir. Yep.
Can't easy.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Hello.
That's it. We're going.
What time
Yeah,
is it
yeah.
there now, Zamir?
It's around 9 o'clock.
Oh, so
3 minutes
so
to
we
9.
had, yeah, so this is almost too early for people,
Mhm.
isn't it? 8 o'clock's a bit early during
8
Ramadan,
o'clock,
isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in Ramadan, since a lot of people are working from home, so they are starting quite late. Whoever I spoke with, they are starting like around 10, 11,
Yeah. No, I
unless
just
they are recording in the office.
thought we'll give it a try. So, yeah,
No, it went very well. I mean, I really liked the content, especially for many, it must have been like an eye-opener, especially when it comes to Prezi video
Yeah.
and video tools. There were certain questions around Teams. I know that, there are certain limit, there will